Hi, this is Mandy from Copic Oz. I want to show you today how to colour where you get a really nice effect of colouring to white or fading to white. I'm using this really gorgeous Tiddly Inks image, and what I've got here is my Zero colourless blender. I've also got my greys, my cool greys ranging from C0, C1, 3, 5 and 7. And I also have here my spicker pens in both silver and clear. Now what I do is I start off with my Zero, and I'm going to just work on these wings. And as you can see, what I'm doing here is I'm just giving the whole layer of wing a coat in the Zero. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to build up the shadow in that wing, and by building up the shadow it will show us where the light is falling, and it will also leave us with areas of white. So I'm going to come in with my C3, which I like to use as my mid-tone, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work my way around the underside of those feathers. And what we're doing here is we're showing really where the shadow is. I'm then going to come up through the top here, because there'll be a bit of a shadow there. And I'm also going to bring in a line through this side of each of the feathers. This shows a darker side to each feather. Okay, so now I'm going to step down from there, from my C3 to my C1, and I'm just feathering now to soften off those lines. Just like that. And the underside of these feathers, because there's a larger shadow being cast. From my C1 I'm going to step down to my C0, and this is where our fade to white is going to happen. And again I'm just feathering to bring it further out, but as you can see I'm leaving that stark white area, and I might just bring in a little bit of shadow through here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift a little bit of that colour off, and I'm going to use my my Zero, and just here where I want those defined white areas, I'm going to go through, and what this will do is the Zero will lift off any of that colour that we don't want, helping us with the fade to white. Now we need to leave that for a second to dry. While that's drying, what I'm going to do is bring in my BV00. I love to use this for bringing in shadows, and so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work to the underside of each of those top feathers to bring in a shadow in the layer below. And you can see there already how just adding that little bit of BV00 really adds dimension, a new dimension if you like, to each of those feathers. You can also see now that the ink has dried where we added in the Zero. So we have a beautiful fade to white. Now what you can do is, if you wanted to again add a little bit more shadow or darkness underneath those feathers, here I've got my little piece of acetate, and I'm going to put a bit of my C5 on there. I'm taking my C0 and I'm going to pick up a little bit of that C5, and this is a technique called palette blending. And as you can see, I'm painting some more of that grey onto those feathers. And what we're doing here is really we have all the control over how much shadow we're putting in. But again, we don't want to put too much in so that we lose that effect of fade to white. Okay, now the important thing to remember when you are palette blending is that you, just on a scrap piece of paper, you wipe off any excess ink on the tip before you close the lid so that you don't contaminate the colours across the tips. So now I'm happy with that wing. I think it shows a bit of shadow, a bit of depth into those feathers. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring in my Spica pens, which I love. I'm going to start off with my silver, and again what I'm going to do is just work to the underside of those top feathers. Now I'm not trying to blend this in, I'm really just going around the outer edge of those top feathers. And what it's doing is it's adding another dimension of shadow. But more importantly, I'm not sure if you can see the shimmer on the video, but it's adding in a really beautiful glitter or shimmer effect. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit more of this silver Spica. Then, because I love the effect of shimmer, especially on wings, I'm coming in just with my clear Spica. And I'm going to go right over the top of these feathered wings. Now, this is not adding any colour whatsoever to the wings, but what it is doing is adding beautiful shimmer. And I'll lift that up so that you can see. There you go. There you can see the shimmer that's now on those wings. So as you can see, very simple to colour in where you get that fade to white. And just as a last example, I'll show you here is the finished little image where I've used the fade to white both on her wings and on her shoes. And when I lift her up and tilt her to the light, there you go, you can see that there's Spica all the way through her, which I love. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I like to keep it short and sweet. Please feel free to leave a comment, leave some love, and show us what you do. Bye.